500 feet beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean, Captain James Harrow stands motionless in the control room of the USS Vigilant. His weathered face reflects the soft glow of instrument panels as he studies depth readings and navigational charts. 23 years at sea have taught him that routine is merely an illusion aboard a nuclear submarine. Every crewman's movement is deliberate, their voices low and measured. The submarine glides silently through the depths, a metal guardian carrying enough firepower to level entire cities, yet moves with the stealth of a whisper. The captain checks his watch. 400 hours, all systems normal. But in the vast emptiness of the deep Pacific, normal can change in an instant. What truly happens when alarms suddenly blare in the crushing depths, where no help can reach them? The soft beep of Captain Harrow's watch alarm breaks the silence at 400 hours. He rises from his narrow bunk in one fluid motion, a habit formed over decades of submarine service. The small captain's quarters, barely larger than a closet, holds the essentials of his life at sea. A desk with neatly organized papers, the USS Vigilant's blueprints rolled carefully in the corner, and a small shelf of well-worn books on naval history. Harrow studies the blueprints each morning, a ritual that grounds him. His fingers trace the intricate design of the Virginia-class nuclear submarine he commands, 377 feet of advanced technology, carrying 34 souls through the depth. The blueprints remind him of his first submarine assignment in 1998, fresh from the Naval Academy, eager and terrified in equal measure. "Permission to enter, sir." Commander Thomas Mitchell, his executive officer, stands at the doorway. At 42, Mitchell is 10 years Harrow's junior, but equally devoted to the silent service. "Enter, XO, Harrow says, rolling up the blueprints. "Status report? All systems normal, Captain. We've maintained depth at 500 feet. Sonar reports standard commercial traffic overhead. Navigation confirms we're on course for Sector 7. Harrow nods, absorbing the information while reaching for his immaculately pressed uniform. Their surveillance patrol of Russian naval activities near the disputed Kuril Islands continues without incident, but experience has taught him that without incident often precedes the unexpected. The new sonar technician, Petty Officer Chen. "How's he performing?" Mitchell's expression shifts subtly. "Still adjusting to the pace, sir. Lieutenant Rivera is providing additional training. Keep me informed," Harrow says, thinking of Chen's eagerness during his interview. Raw talent needs shaping, especially 500 feet underwater where mistakes cost lives. 5 minutes later, Harrow steps into his private bathroom, another captain's privilege, and completes his morning routine with military precision. The face in the mirror shows the weathered lines of 23 years beneath the waves, of countless patrols, of decisions that weighed heavier than the ocean pressing against the hull. At 0430 sharp, he enters the control room, and the atmosphere shifts imperceptibly. Backs straighten, voices lower, movements become more deliberate. The watch officer announces "Captain" on deck, but Harrow waves away the formality with practiced ease. "As you were." The control room hums with quiet efficiency. Screens glow with navigational data, sonar readings, and life support metrics. Lieutenant Commander Reyes, the ship's navigator, approaches with the night's positioning log. "We've maintained our search grid patterns. Current position is here," she indicates a spot on the digital map, approximately 120 nautical miles from the Russian fleet exercises. Harrow studies the information, conscious of the fine line they walk, close enough to gather intelligence, distant enough to avoid provocation. The blueprints he studies daily make the Vigilant's capabilities clear. Their advanced sonar can track Russian submarines from a safe distance. "Any unusual activity overnight?" he asks. "Nothing significant, sir," Reyes responds. Though sonar did pick up some irregular acoustics, likely marine life, but Rivera flagged it for continued monitoring. Harrow makes a mental note to review the sonar logs personally. 20 years ago, aboard the USS Hartford, he'd dismissed a similar anomaly as biological. The Russian Akula-class submarine, that suddenly appeared 800 yards off their port side taught him never to make that mistake again. Chief Watson reports the reactor is operating at optimal efficiency, Mitchell adds, joining them. Engineering completed the scheduled maintenance on the port ballast tanks. Harrow acknowledges with a nod, then moves to the communications station, where Lieutenant Parker monitors the highly restricted channels to Naval Command. Any traffic from Harrow asks, referring to Submarine Force Pacific Headquarters. Routine updates only, sir. Weather reports indicate increasing surface activity. A storm system moving in from the northwest. Perfect conditions for testing Russian submarine detection capabilities. The reason for their current patrol. The Pentagon suspects new technology deployment during these exercises. Harrow completes his rounds, speaking briefly with each station officer, absorbing details, offering quiet guidance where needed. By 05:30, he's satisfied with the submarine's status and heads to the wardroom for breakfast. The responsibilities of command settle across his shoulders like a familiar weight as he sips bitter coffee. The blueprints he studied that morning aren't just technical specifications, they're a reminder of what he protects. Every pipe, circuit and compartment represents lives entrusted to his care, moving silently through the deep Pacific waters, unseen guardians of a world that sleeps unaware of their vigilance. After the morning briefing, Captain Harrow returns to his quarters for the 15 minutes of solitude he allows himself each day. He closes the door, sits at his desk, and opens the top drawer. Inside lies a photograph protected in a waterproof sleeve. His wife Eleanor, their daughter Sarah, and son Michael, taken 3 summers ago at their lake house in Michigan. Eleanor's smile never wavers despite understanding that her husband's duty would claim him for months at a time. The children, now adults with lives of their own, had grown up measuring time by their father's deployments. Before Dad left, while Dad was under the ocean, after Dad returned. Harrow traces their faces with his fingertip, a ritual as important as checking the submarine's systems. This deployment marks his 4th missed Thanksgiving. Michael's doctoral graduation ceremony had passed 3 weeks ago. Sarah's 2nd child is due in 2 months. Another homecoming he might miss. The silent service demands silence, his first captain had told him, not just from our submarines, but from our hearts. At 22, Harrow hadn't fully understood. At 53, the weight of those words presses on him with each patrol. The photograph represents his compass, what grounds him when surrounded by steel, seawater, and responsibility. He's missed anniversaries, birthdays, and countless everyday moments, sacrifices made bearable only by the conviction that his absence protects their presence in the world above. A knock interrupts his contemplation. "Enter," he calls, slipping the photo back into the drawer. Seaman Justin Collins stands awkwardly at attention. At 19, he's the youngest crew member, fresh-faced, despite the submarine's artificial lighting that turns most complexions sallow. "Sir, Chief Watson asked me to deliver the reactor efficiency reports," Collins says, extending a tablet. Harrow notices the slight tremor in the young man's hand. "At ease, Collins. How are you adjusting to submarine life?" The question visibly surprises the seaman. "Well enough, sir. Still getting used to the lack of windows." Harrow almost smiles. "You're from Traverse City, correct?" Collins blinks. "Yes, sir. How did I make it my business to know my crew, Collins? My family vacationed near there when I was about your age. Beautiful waters." "They are, sir." Harrow sees something in the young sailor's expression, homesickness perhaps, or the disorientation that comes from losing the horizon line for months at a time. He remembers the feeling. "The hardest part of submarine service isn't the confined space, Collins. It's the disconnection. We leave behind not just people, but information. While we're under, the world continues without us. Elections happen, babies are born, loved ones pass away, and we learn about it all in retrospect." Collins nods, his posture relaxing slightly. "My girlfriend's graduating college next month. We'll be in Japanese waters by then. First deployment is always the hardest." Harrow acknowledges. But remember, everyone in this steel tube is in the same situation. We become each other's family out of necessity. Thank you, sir, Collins says, straightening. My father served on the Ohio. He said I'd learn more about myself underwater than I ever would on land. Wise man, your father, Harrow says, accepting the tablet. That'll be all, Collins. After the seaman leaves, Harrow reviews the reactor reports. The numbers are optimal, as expected under Chief Watson's meticulous supervision. The nuclear propulsion system runs perfectly, converting heat to power, allowing them to remain submerged for months without surfacing. They could circle the globe 20 times before needing refueling. He thinks of Eleanor studying marine biology when they met, fascinated by creatures adapted to the ocean's crushing pressure. Like you, she'd said years later, watching him prepare for another deployment. Adapted to a world most people couldn't survive in. The intercom Kinsey's thoughts. Captain, to the control room, comes Mitchell's voice, professionally neutral but with an undertone Harrow recognizes from years serving together. He secures the tablet, straightens his uniform, and heads to the control room. The mental transition complete. The photograph returns to its drawer, his family safely stored away with his vulnerability. In the narrow corridors, he passes crew members who nod respectfully. They see only the captain, decisive, composed, confident. None would guess that moments ago he touched a fading photograph, worried about missing the birth of a grandchild, or felt the peculiar ache of commanding a submarine on endless patrol while life continues relentlessly on the surface. The weight of command settles across his shoulders again as he nears the control room. Behind him, in the darkness of his drawer, frozen smiles guard his most precious artifacts. Memories of sunlight, open skies, and a life measured in more than fathom. The daily operations briefing begins at 0800 sharp in the submarine's compact wardroom. Captain Harrow takes his position at the head of the table, the command log open before him. The leather-bound book with USS Vigilant embossed in gold on its cover contains the official record of their patrol, coordinates, contacts, system statuses, and the captain's assessments. Navy regulations require meticulous documentation, but for Harrow, the log represents more than bureaucratic obligation. It's the submarine's memory, its testament to history. Gentlemen, ladies, Harrow nods as his department heads settle into their seats. XO. Begin the briefing. Commander Mitchell stands, tablet in hand. 800 hours, day 17 of Pacific Patrol. We remain at operational depth in designated sector. Navigation report. Lieutenant Commander Ryers speaks first. We maintained course through the night at 15 knots. Current position is within 2 nautical miles of projected coordinates. No navigational anomalies to report. Harrow makes a notation in the command log, his handwriting precise despite decades of typing reports. Some traditions of command persist, even in nuclear submarines. Engineering status. Mitchell continues. Chief Engineer Watson, a stocky man with 27 years of submarine service, clears his throat. Reactor operating at optimal capacity. Completed scheduled maintenance on water purification systems. Life support functioning normally with 97 days of sustainability remaining. The briefing proceeds methodically. Weapons systems, communications, medical. Each department reports readiness. Each notation entered in the command log with Harrow's initials. Routine sustains them in the depths. Routine keeps 34 men and women functioning in a sealed metal tube beneath millions of gallons of crushing seawater. Sonar report, Mitchell says, turning to Lieutenant Rivera. Rivera, 34, with sharp eyes and the most sensitive ears on the submarine, leans forward. Standard commercial traffic overhead, predominantly container ships on established routes. No military surface vessels within 50 nautical miles. He hesitates, almost imperceptibly, but Harrow catches it. 23 years of command sharpens one's perception of hesitation. Continue, Lieutenant, Harrow prompts. Sir, At 0342 this morning, passive sonar detected an unusual acoustic signature approximately 12 nautical miles northeast of our position. Low frequency, intermittent. The room's atmosphere shifts subtly. Harrow keeps his expression neutral. Classification, inconclusive, sir. Could be biological. But the pattern, Rivera pauses. The frequency range matches potential submarine propeller signatures, though distorted. I've assigned Petty Officer Chen to continuous monitoring. Harrow notes this carefully in the command log, aware of the heightened attention around the table. Duration of contact. Approximately 3 minutes, sir. Then silence. Commander Mitchell exchanges a glance with Harrow. In submarine warfare, 3 minutes of sound could reveal everything, or nothing. Your assessment, Lieutenant? Harrow asks. Rivera chooses his words carefully. Possibly a mechanical failure on a vessel attempting to run silent. Possibly biological. I've instructed the sonar team to review our acoustic libraries for matches. Harrow nods, making another entry in the log. Lieutenant Walker, Signals Intelligence report. The Signals Intelligence officer, a woman with cropped grey hair, and the submarine's highest security clearance, beyond the captain himself, references her encrypted tablet. No unusual electromagnetic activity detected. Russian naval exercise communications remain consistent with predicted patterns. Satellite uplink at 0600 hours confirmed no change to our operational parameters. Harrow considers this information against Rivera's report. The Russian exercises shouldn't extend to their current position. Chinese naval activities are concentrated farther south. American submarines maintain strict separation protocols to avoid friendly contact incidents. Supply and provisions, Mitchell continues, nodding to Lieutenant Parker. All inventories at expected levels, sir. Water conservation measures remain standard. No issues to report. As the briefing concludes, Harrow addresses the room. Our mission continues as scheduled. Lieutenant Rivera, I want hourly updates on any further acoustic anomalies. Commander Mitchell and I will review patrol patterns in light of this morning's contact. He makes a final notation in the command log, then closes it deliberately. That's all. Maintain vigilance. As the officers disperse, Harrow notices the subtle tension between Rivera and Chen, who waits outside the wardroom. The older sonar officer passes the younger technician without acknowledgement. XO, a moment, Harrow says as others file out. When they're alone, he speaks quietly. Your assessment of the Rivera-Chen situation, Mitchell sighs. Rivera's protective of his domain. Chen's intelligence and eagerness threatened him. It's contained for now, but worth monitoring. Harrow nods. And the sonar contact. Could be nothing, Mitchell says, but we don't deal in could be 500 feet underwater. Harrow finishes. Have navigation plot alternate exit vectors from this sector. Quietly. Mitchell nods, understanding the unspoken concern. The command log now contains the first hint of what might become a significant entry, or nothing at all. In the silent service, distinctions between routine and crisis often begin with just a whisper of sound in the deep. The sonar room resembles a cave of concentrated listening. Dim blue lighting preserves night vision while highlighting the array of displays and monitoring equipment. Captain Harrow enters silently, observing before announcing his presence. Petty Officer Chen sits hunched forward, the specialized sonar headphones clamped tightly over his ears. His eyes are closed, face a mask of intense concentration. At 26, he's older than most new submarine recruits, a doctoral program dropout, who enlisted after his father's medical bills consumed his tuition. His personnel file notes exceptional auditory processing abilities, scoring in the 99th percentile during training. Lieutenant Rivera stands behind him, arms crossed, watching both Chen and the acoustic signature displays. Neither man notices Harrow until he steps forward deliberately. Captain, on deck, Rivera announces, straightening. As you were, Harrow says quietly. Report on our mysterious contact. Rivera gestures to the screens. Nothing further since the morning anomaly, sir. But we've been analyzing the recording. Chen removes the headphones reluctantly. Sir, I believe it's mechanical in origin, not biological. Explain, Harrow says, studying the young technician. Chen brings up a waveform analysis on the main display. The frequency pattern doesn't match any known marine mammal signatures in our database. The harmonic structure suggests propeller blades, but with an unusual configuration, possibly damaged or deliberately modified for sound reduction. A submarine trying not to sound like a submarine, Harrow muses. That would be my assessment, sir. Chen agrees. Furthermore, the intermittent nature suggests deliberate propulsion cycling, a technique to mask acoustic signatures. Rivera's expression tightens almost imperceptibly. That's speculative, Captain. Without sustained contact, we can't make definitive classifications. Understood, Harrow says, noting the tension. But speculation based on evidence has its place. He picks up the spare set of sonar headphones, a gesture that surprises both men. Play the recording. Chen cues it up, watching the captain's face carefully as Harrow listens. The recording plays, a low rhythmic pulsing, unlike the familiar sounds of commercial shipping. It wavers, fades, then returns with slight modifications. 8 seconds of sound, then silence. In that brief audio, Harrow is transported back 20 years to the North Sea during tensions with the Russian Northern Fleet. The USS Hartford had detected similar acoustic anomalies before confirming contact with a modified Akula-class attack submarine. They had tracked each other for 72 tense hours before separating without incident. The memory remains vivid. The knot of tension in his stomach as a junior officer, the controlled calm of his captain. He removes the headphone. Reminds me of modified Russian propulsion systems I've encountered before. But different. What's your assessment of vessel size? Chen hesitates, glancing at Rivera. Based on amplitude and propagation characteristics, I'd estimate medium displacement, smaller than us, larger than a mini-sub. Chinese diesel-electric, perhaps, Harrow suggests. Possibly, sir, Rivera interjects. Though they typically operate farther south, this location would be unusual for their patrol patterns. Harrow nods thoughtfully. What's your plan for monitoring? I've adjusted our passive arrays to focus on that specific frequency range, Chen explains, animation overcoming his usual reserve, and I'm running continuous comparative analysis against our acoustic signature libraries. Good. Lieutenant Rivera, expand our passive perimeter. If this vessel is deliberately masking its signature, it might be attempting to close distance without detection. Yes, sir. Rivera responds. Should we alter course as a precaution? Harrow considers, remembering his old captain's wisdom. In submarine warfare, patience often reveals more than action. Not yet. That might alert them to our presence if they're unaware. Let's observe a bit longer. He turns to leave, but pauses. Petty Officer Chen. A moment. In the corridor outside, Harrow speaks quietly. Your father, how is his health? Surprise flashes across Chen's face. Improving, sir. The treatments are working. Thank you for asking. Your concentration in there, I've seen it before in exceptional sonar operators, but don't let determination to prove yourself lead to overinterpretation. Lieutenant Rivera has 17 years of experience listening to the deep. Yes, sir, but the acoustic signature may very well be what you believe it is, Harrow interrupts gently. Just maintain the balance between intuition and evidence. Chen nods. Understood, Captain. As Harrow returns to the control room, he reflects on the sonar headphones, the submarine's most critical sensory link to the outside world. In the crushing darkness of deep water, sound travels where light cannot. Their lives depend on listening well, to the ocean, to each other, and sometimes to the whisper of instinct that comes from years beneath the waves. The XO awaits his return, question in his eyes. Anything possibly, Harrow answers. Have navigation plot several course options as contingencies, but maintain current heading for now. He glances at the depth gauge. And take us deeper. 650 feet. Let's reduce our acoustic profile while we listen. The tension aboard has shifted, subtle but palpable. Not yet alarm, but heightened awareness. The daily rhythm of submarine life continues, but beneath it runs a new undercurrent of anticipation. Lunch in the officers' mess provides the only scheduled break in Captain Harrow's day. The small compartment, more functional than comfortable, offers a semblance of separation from the constant vigilance of command. Here, conversations occasionally drift beyond operational parameters into the sparse territory of personal exchange permitted in submarine culture. Commander Mitchell sits across from Harrow, between them an old chess set bolted to the table, a tradition dating back decades in submarine service. The pieces, worn smooth from countless hands, are secured with magnetic bases to prevent drifting during maneuvers. Their game began 3 days ago, advancing a few moves during each meal break. "Your move, Captain," Mitchell says, pouring coffee from a steel carafe. Harrow studies the board, the familiar pattern, a welcome diversion. Chess provides more than recreation aboard a submarine. It's an exercise in strategic thinking, patience, and anticipating an opponent's intentions. The very skills that keep them alive beneath the waves. "How's your daughter's college search progressing?" Harrow asks, moving his knight. Mitchell's expression softens momentarily. "Emma's narrowed it down to 3. Engineering programs, all of them. The Naval Academy's on her list." Following the family tradition, Harrow captures a pawn. Her mother's hoping for MIT instead, Mitchell admits. Less time underwater. Their conversation, like the chess game, proceeds with measured moves. Neither man mentions the morning sonar anomaly directly, yet it influences their exchange as surely as unseen currents affect the submarine's course. Lieutenant Walker enters, nodding to both officers before retrieving her meal tray. As Signals Intelligence Officer, her schedule often separates her from regular mess rotations. "Lieutenant," Harrow acknowledges. "Any updates from our brief satellite connection?" Walker sits at the adjacent table. "New intelligence packet downloaded during our scheduled communication window. Mostly routine updates on regional naval activities." She pauses, selecting her words carefully. Though naval intelligence notes increased encrypted communications from Chinese vessels operating north of their usual patrol areas, Mitchell raises an eyebrow, moving his bishop. "Interesting timing." "Indeed," Walker continues. "Also, there was a personal message for you, Commander. Your wife reports that Emma was accepted early decision to Caltech." Mitchell's surprise is evident. "That wasn't supposed to be announced for another 2 weeks. "Congratulations, XO," Harrow says, watching his second-in-command process this news from home. News that arrived while they were submerged in the Pacific depth, disconnected from the flow of life above. "Thank you, sir." Mitchell's smile is genuine but tinged with something else, the bittersweet recognition of another family milestone observed from afar. The chess pieces wait, patient and unchanging, as the 3 officers share a moment of conversation about civilian life, that parallel world that continues without them during their underwater deployments. Walker describes her recent house purchase, a renovation project awaiting her return. Mitchell mentions his son's baseball championship. Harrow listens, offering occasional comments while his mind partially remains with the morning's sonar contact. Their momentary respite ends when Chief Watson appears at the doorway. "Captain, XO, we've received an update from sonar." The atmosphere shifts instantly. Chess pieces forgotten. Harrow and Mitchell rise together. "Nature of the update, Chief?" Harrow asks, already moving toward the door. "Lieutenant Rivera reports renewed contact with the acoustic signature, sir. Stronger this time." In the control room, the standard hum of equipment continues unchanged, but Harrow immediately senses the heightened alertness of the crew. Rivera stands at the sonar station, Chen beside him, both men focused on their displays. "Report," Harrow says, moving directly to their station. "Contact re-established at bearing 057, estimated range 12,000 yards. Rivera states. Signal characteristics consistent with this morning's detection, but significantly clearer, definitely mechanical, in origin. Chen adds, The signature suggests a diesel-electric submarine running on battery power, sir. Movement pattern indicates a search pattern. They're looking for something, or someone, Mitchell murmured. Harrow studies the sonar display, the chess game in the officers' mess, mentally superimposed over this new tactical situation. Each move reveals intention. Each position suggests future possibilities. Your assessment, Lieutenant Rivera. Chinese Yuan-class submarines, newer variant, with air-independent propulsion. They can remain submerged for weeks without surfacing or snorkeling. Harrow nods. Weapons status. Torpedo tubes dry, sir. The weapons officer reports from his station. Can be loaded and ready in 7 minutes. Maintain current weapons status. Harrow orders. This is reconnaissance, not confrontation. He turns to navigation. Plot a course adjustment that will maintain distance but allow continued observation. Nothing that suggests we've detected them. As orders flow through the command chain, Harrow exchanges a glance with Mitchell. Their chess game remains unfinished. In the officers' mess, pieces frozen in potential moves, never to be played. The real game has shifted to the vastness of the Pacific depths, where two submarines maneuver in silent calculation, each seeking advantage without revealing presence. The unspoken question hangs between them. What is a Chinese submarine doing this far north, and what, or who, is it searching for?
Periscope depth, Captain Harrow orders, his voice carrying the quiet authority that needs no volume for emphasis. The diving officer acknowledges. Aye, sir. Proceeding to periscope depth, the USS Vigilant rises gradually through the ocean layers, the hull creaking subtly as pressure changes. The submarine's ascent is precisely controlled. Too rapid would create detectable noise. Too slow would unnecessarily extend their vulnerability during transition. Harrow stands centered in the control room, monitoring the choreographed sequence of depth adjustments, passing 600 feet. 500 feet, the diving officer calls out, marking their progress toward the surface world they've been separated from for days. Scheduled periscope observations are necessary even in the age of satellite communications. The periscope, the submarine's literal eye to the outside world, provides crucial visual confirmation of surface conditions that sonar and electronic intelligence cannot fully capture. 300 feet, 200 feet. The atmosphere in the control room intensifies. Rising closer to the surface increases their detection risk, especially with a possible Chinese submarine operating nearby. The executive officer oversees system checks while Harrow mentally calculates their position relative to known shipping lanes. 100 feet, approaching periscope depth. Sonar final sweep, Harrow orders. Sonar sweeping, Rivera confirms. Surface contacts, 2 merchant vessels bearing 030 and 112, ranges 12,000 and 18,000 yards respectively. No military surface signatures detected. Hold at 60 feet, Harrow commands, once they reach periscope depth. Raise the photonics mast. Unlike the mechanical periscopes of earlier submarine generations, the modern photonics mast extends a camera system that feeds digital imagery to screens in the control room. The system provides enhanced optical capabilities while minimizing the submarine's exposure. The screens illuminate with daylight, a startling contrast to the submarine's controlled lighting. Harrow studies the horizon views as the mast rotates, scanning methodically in all directions. The Pacific stretches vast and empty, deceptively peaceful from this vantage point. Distant merchant ships appear as smudges against the horizon, exactly where sonar placed them. Log surface observation, Harrow tells the officer of the deck. Sea state 3, scattered clouds, visibility approximately 8 nautical miles. Merchant traffic as reported by sonar. As the photonics mast continues its rotation, Harrow recalls a close encounter from his early career. The USS Hartford, during a patrol near the Russian coast, had risen to periscope depth directly beneath an undetected fishing vessel. Only the quick reactions of the diving officer prevented collision, as they emergency dived, passing barely 20 feet beneath the trawler's keel. The incident taught him that no matter how sophisticated their technology, the ocean still held dangers no sensor could perfectly predict. "Sir," the communications officer interrupts his thoughts. "Satellite connection established. Receiving encrypted data transmission from Subpack. Download and verify," Harrow orders. These brief connections to Naval Command provide updated intelligence and mission parameters, the submarine's tenuous link to the chain of command. Mitchell approaches, speaking quietly. The Chinese submarine maintains position at bearing SA-50, range now 14,000 yards. They appear to be holding station. Harrow nods, considering the implications. They may be waiting for something, or someone. The photonics mast completes its rotation, having captured comprehensive imagery of their surroundings. The data will be analyzed for any anomalies or threats the electronic systems might have missed. Extend the communication masts, Harrow orders. Complete transmission cycle. Transmission complete in 40 seconds, the communications officer confirms as data flows. Between the submarine and military satellites, overhead, these moments of connection with the surface world are carefully minimized. Every second with masts extended increases their detection risk. The submarine's survival depends on stealth, on being a whisper in the deep rather than a visible presence. New orders received and authenticated, the communications officer announces. Data package complete. Lower all masts, Harrow commands. Prepare to dive. The screens showing the surface world go dark as the photonics mast retracts. The brief window to the upper world closes, returning them to the self-contained environment of the submarine. Dive to 500 feet. Make your course 095, speed 15 knots, Harrow orders. As the submarine descends, Harrow withdraws to review the new orders with Mitchell. The message from Pacific Submarine Command is terse but significant. Chinese naval vessels have increased activity in the region, conducting exercises beyond their normal operational areas. The USS Vigilant is to continue observation while maintaining stealth protocols. Additionally, they've been alerted to monitor for a specific acoustic signature, a Russian research vessel believed to be testing new underwater technologies nearby. The complexity of their mission has increased. The underwater chessboard now holds multiple pieces, American, Chinese, and potentially Russian, maneuvering in the silent depths. The periscope observation, routine as it seemed, confirmed what Harrow had suspected. They've surfaced into more complicated waters than when they submerged days ago. XO. Inform department heads, Harrow says, his decision made. We're modifying our patrol pattern to maintain surveillance of our Chinese friend while watching for this Russian vessel. Understood, Captain, Mitchell responds. And if both make contact? Then we observe very, very quietly, Harrow says. This just became an intelligence goldmine. The navigation center aboard the USS Vigilant serves as the submarine's spatial conscience. Here, in a compartment barely large enough for 3 officers to work simultaneously, Lieutenant Commander Reyes oversees the complex task of positioning a 7,800-ton vessel through the underwater terrain of the Pacific. Captain on deck, someone announces as Harrow enters. As you were, he responds automatically. Walk me through our current position and options, Commander. Reyes gestures to her workstation where both digital charts and traditional paper navigation charts are spread out. Despite technological advances, submarines maintain paper charts as backup. Electricity can fail, computers crash, but paper endures. These navigational charts, meticulously updated and maintained, represent centuries of accumulated knowledge about the ocean floor. We're currently here. Sir! Reyes indicates a position on the digital display, then mirrors it on the paper chart. Operating in the northwestern Pacific, approximately 180 nautical miles from the Kuril Island chain. Harrow studies the charts, noting the bathymetric lines indicating ocean depths. Few people appreciate the underwater landscape as submarine officers do. The mountains, valleys and plains that exist beneath the surface, invisible to the world above. The Chinese submarine maintains position approximately 12,000 yards at bearing 050, Reyes continues, marking the location on the chart. Based on their movement patterns, they appear to be maintaining station near this underwater ridge system. And the Russian research vessel we've been alerted to watch for? No contact yet, sir, but intelligence suggests they would likely operate in this region. She indicates a section of ocean east of their position. It's a deep trench area with interesting acoustic properties. Harrow traces the international boundary lines on the chart with his finger. We're operating in international waters, but just barely. The Russian maritime claim extends to here. Chinese territorial waters begin approximately 230 nautical miles southwest. A complicated neighborhood, Mitchell comments, having joined them silently. Increasingly so, Harrow agrees. Let's review our escape vectors. Reyes nods, pulling up additional chart overlays. I've plotted 3 primary exit routes based on current positioning. Route Alpha takes us south then east, using this deep water channel to mask our acoustic signature. Route Bravo is more direct, but crosses within 50 nautical miles of known Chinese patrol areas. Route Charlie is the most conservative, taking us northeast into deeper water before looping back to our assigned patrol area. Harrow has spent a lifetime studying ocean geography, knowing that underwater terrain affects sound propagation, concealment options, and tactical advantage in ways no land commander would comprehend. Early in his career, he'd memorized Pacific depth charts during off-watches, understanding that this knowledge might someday mean the difference between detection and invisibility. Your recommendation, Commander? He asks. Route Alpha provides the best balance of safety and tactical positioning, sir. The underwater ridge system would help mask our signature from the Chinese submarine if we needed to withdraw without detection. Harrow nods. Program all 3 routes into the navigation system, but prepare for Alpha implementation on my command. As Reyes inputs the coordinates, Harrow studies the disputed boundary areas marked on the chart. The underwater world has its own geopolitics, claims and counterclaims to territories rich in resources or strategically valuable. Their mission skirts these sensitive areas deliberately. Observing without provocation, Captain, Mitchell says quietly. Given the Chinese submarine's position and the potential Russian vessel, we should consider whether we've stumbled onto something significant. Harrow considers this. Coincidences are rare in submarine operations. The Chinese vessel operating outside its normal patrol area, the Russian research ship reportedly testing new technology, and their own American submarine conducting surveillance. 3 underwater assets converging near disputed boundaries. Commander Reyes, Harrow asks, what's unique about this specific section of ocean floor? Reyes zooms the digital chart to show detailed bathymetry. This ridge system is relatively unexplored, sir. Recent geological surveys suggest potential rare earth mineral deposits. Additionally, the underwater topography creates an acoustic shadow zone, an area where sonar detection is significantly impaired. A perfect testing ground for new stealth technology, Mitchell observes, or resource exploration under military cover, Harrow adds. Either would explain both Chinese and Russian interest. The navigation charts, with their detailed renderings of the underwater landscape, now reveal more than geography. They expose potential motivation. Nations compete for advantages beneath the waves just as fiercely as above them, but with far less public awareness. Update our patrol pattern, Harrow decides. Maintain observation distance from the Chinese submarine, but adjust our positioning to monitor this ridge area more closely. If the Russians arrive as expected, I want to understand what makes this particular patch of ocean so interesting to our competitors. As Reyes implements the new coordinates, Harrow reflects on how the paper charts represent both known territory and the unknown. Even with advanced mapping, the deep ocean remains Earth's least explored frontier. What resources, advantages, or discoveries might lie in the darkness below still drives nations to send their submarines and their sailors into the crushing depths. XO. Inform Subpac of our observations and suspicions at next scheduled communication window, Harrow says as they leave navigation. But for now, we watch and wait. The ocean charts remain spread on the table. The submarine's position a small symbol in the vast blue expanse. 3 nations converging on a patch of seafloor that may hold secrets worth the dangerous game unfolding around it. The announcement comes without warning. Cutting through the submarine's normal operational rhythm, this is the captain speaking. Emergency station's drill will commence in 5 minutes. This is a drill. Repeat, this is a drill. All hands prepare for emergency deep scenario. That is all. Harrow replaces the intercom handset and nods to Mitchell. Let's see how they respond. They've had it easy this patrol, Mitchell agrees. Time to shake off the complacency. Regular drills maintain readiness aboard submarines, where actual emergencies allow no learning curve, only immediate correct action. The Emergency Procedures Manual, a thick binder with red tabs and laminated pages, sits open on the control room table. Though every officer knows the protocols by heart, regulations require the manual's presence during drills. Its weathered cover has witnessed countless simulated disasters and a few real ones throughout the Vigilant service. Passing word through all compartments, the chief of the boat announces, "Emergency deep drill commencing. The submarine transforms." Relaxed efficiency gives way to focused intensity. Crew members secure loose items, check emergency breathing apparatus, and move to designated stations. In the control room, the atmosphere sharpens as officers review emergency diving procedures. "Timer begins on my mark," Mitchell says, watching the chronometer. Mark. A submarine crew lives with the constant awareness of their vessel's inherent contradiction. Designed to sink, but required not to sink uncontrollably. Emergency deep procedures drive the submarine down quickly, but with precision, escaping surface threats while maintaining control. Simulating surface contact bearing 187, range 4,000 yards, designating hostile, the tactical officer calls out. Playing his role in the scenario, emergency deep. Make your depth 900 feet full ahead, the diving officer commands. Crew members respond instantly, adjusting dive planes and engine speed. Harrow observes without interfering, evaluating individual performance and team coordination. He moves through the control room, noting response times and communication clarity. The Emergency Procedures Manual pages flip as the officer of the deck references specific protocols, more from procedural discipline than necessity. Passing 600 feet, the diving officer reports, though their actual depth remains unchanged for the drill. In the torpedo room, weapons officers simulate preparing countermeasures. Engineering secures non-essential systems to redirect power. Throughout the submarine, department heads report readiness status through the communication network. Surface contact launching. Calls the sonar supervisor, adding simulated urgency. Deploy countermeasures, orders the executive officer. Evasive maneuver, Charlie. The choreography continues, each sailor performing assigned emergency functions. Harrow makes mental notes on response times, comparing them to fleet standards and his own higher expectations. Then he notices Seaman Collins hesitating at the damage control panel, fingers hovering uncertainly over the controls. Flooding in compartment 6, Mitchell announces, adding an unexpected complication to the scenario. Collins freezes completely, his training momentarily abandoned under pressure. Lieutenant Rodriguez steps toward him, but Harrow raises a hand, stopping the intervention. The young sailor must work through this himself. Long seconds pass. Collins suddenly remembers his training, moves to the correct panel, and initiates simulated compartment isolation procedures. Compartment 6 isolated, he reports. Voice steadying, passing 900 feet, leveling off, the diving officer calls. Emergency deep procedure complete. Simulate surface contact withdrawing, Mitchell orders, bringing the primary scenario to conclusion. Flooding contained. Damage control teams responding, Rodriguez reports. Closing Collins' portion of the drill. Drill concluded, Harrow announces. All stations report. Department heads communicate completion status while the submarine returns to normal operations. Harrow makes his way to Collins, who stands rigidly at his station, face flushed with embarrassment. Walk with me. Seaman, Harrow says quietly. In the narrow corridor outside, Collins braces for reprimand. I'm sorry, sir. I hesitated. You did, Harrow acknowledges. Tell me why. I blanked on the isolation sequence, sir. When the flooding report came in simultaneously with the evasive maneuver, you experienced task saturation, Harrow says. It happens to everyone eventually. The question is, what did you learn? Collins blinks, surprised by the question. That I need to drill the damage control procedures until they're automatic, sir. Good. And Collins thinks for a moment. That hesitation costs time we wouldn't have in a real emergency, Harrow nods. On my first patrol, I froze during a fire drill. My chief told me something I never forgot. In submarines, we don't have the luxury of learning from our mistakes. We have to learn from our drills instead. I understand, sir. You recovered, Collins. That matters. Harrow dismisses him with a nod. Returning to the control room, Harrow finds Mitchell reviewing the drill chronology. 7 minutes, 14 seconds total response time, the XO reports. 22 seconds slower than our last drill. The flooding complication added difficulty, Harrow acknowledges. But they should have handled it better. Schedule focused training for damage control teams this week, Mitchell makes the notation. Collins needs work, he does, but he has potential. Harrow picks up the emergency procedures manual, its worn pages containing lessons written in decades of submarine experience, some paid for with lives. Have department heads prepare drill critiques. I want detailed feedback sessions with each division. As regular operations resume, Harrow reflects on the drill's true purpose. Beyond measuring readiness, it forces the crew to confront the omnipresent dangers of their environment. The ocean's pressure surrounds them constantly, seeking any weakness. Their safety exists only through vigilance, training, and the shared understanding that underwater physics allows no appeals. Next time, he tells Mitchell, let's make it harder. No warning, middle of night watch. Mitchell nods, understanding. The emergency procedures manual returns to its place in the control room. Accessible, visible, and hopefully unnecessary except for drills. But ready, always ready, for the moment simulation becomes reality. Captain Harrow secures the door to his private quarters, a rare action that signals to the crew that what follows is beyond their concern. Commander Mitchell sits across from the small desk, his expression carefully neutral. Between them lies a red envelope with classified eyes only. Stamped across its front, the sealed orders that accompanied their mission brief but were to remain unopened unless specific conditions occurred. You're certain about the acoustic signature? Harrow asks. Positive, sir, Mitchell confirms. Chen isolated it clearly during the last watch. It matches the parameters specified in our contingency instructions. Harrow breaks the seal on the envelope, removing several pages of orders printed on special paper that would dissolve in water if the submarine were ever compromised. Both men read in silence, the only sound the constant, reassuring hum of the ventilation system. Well, Harrow says finally, this complicates matters. That's an understatement. Sir, Mitchell responds, his typical composure slightly strained. The classified orders reveal their patrol's true purpose, monitoring a suspected test of new Chinese acoustic masking technology believed to potentially neutralize American sonar advantages. The Russian research vessel they'd been alerted to watch for is actually a specialized intelligence ship, likely present for the same reason, to gather data on the Chinese breakthrough. 3 years of naval intelligence work, Harrow muses, tracking their research program through shell corporations and dummy research grants. And now they're conducting sea trials right where we happen to be patrolling. Coincidence, sir? Mitchell asks, though his tone suggests he already knows the answer. Hardly. Pacific Command positioned us here precisely because their intelligence suggested this test was imminent. But they couldn't tell us the full mission parameters until the acoustic signature was confirmed. Harrow stands, pacing the small confines of his quarters. The sealed orders represent the compartmentalization of information inherent to submarine operations. Officers and crew execute missions without always knowing the full strategic context. Need-to-know protocols protect both operational security and plausible deniability in sensitive waters. If the Chinese have developed technology that can mask a submarine's acoustic signature this effectively, Mitchell says, it would fundamentally alter the underwater strategic balance. And if the Russians are monitoring the test, they'll attempt to replicate the technology, Harrow adds. The question becomes, what are our orders now that the contingency has been triggered? They return to the classified documents. Their new mission parameters are clear but challenging. Maintain stealth observation of the Chinese submarine. Record all acoustic data possible. And if the opportunity presents itself, attempt to determine the exact nature of the masking technology without revealing their presence. This puts us in a difficult position, Harrow says. Effective observation may require decreasing our distance from the Chinese submarine, increasing our risk of detection. Mitchell finishes the thought. Precisely. Harrow considers the implications. And with the Russians likely in the vicinity, we're potentially navigating between two adversaries, both highly motivated to protect their operations from American intelligence gathering. Mitchell studies the captain, recognizing the familiar expression of someone weighing risk against mission objectives. Your thoughts, sir? Harrow folds the orders deliberately. First, we need to discuss who else gets brought into complete mission awareness. Operational security suggests minimal personnel, but practical execution will require key officers understanding what we're truly doing. Rivera and Chen at minimum, Mitchell suggests. They're operating the sonar equipment, gathering the intelligence we need. Agreed. Add Lieutenant Walker from Signals Intelligence and Commander Reyes for navigation. The four of them plus us. Harrow makes the decision. No one else gets the full picture yet. And the approach, sir? We'll implement a modified observation pattern. Gradually decrease distance while maintaining optimal acoustic shadow positioning. Harrow traces an invisible pattern on his desk. I want us positioned to gather maximum intelligence while preserving our stealth advantage. It's a narrow margin for error, Mitchell notes. If we're detected, we not only compromise the intelligence mission, but potentially trigger an international incident. The risk is justified by the intelligence value, Harrow responds. If the Chinese have actually developed this technology successfully, the strategic implications are significant enough to warrant the risk. The sealed orders, now read and understood, must be destroyed according to protocol. Harrow places the pages in a small receptacle designed for this purpose, applies a chemical solution, and watches as the classified information dissolves into an unreadable slurry. Should we inform the crew about the increased risk profile? Mitchell asks. Harrow considers the question carefully. Not specifically, but I think we need the chief of the boat's help managing the crew's readiness without alarming them unnecessarily. Master Chief Peterson. Mitchell nods. He can maintain discipline without needing all the details. Have him join us at 1600 hours, Harrow decides. We'll brief our selected officers individually after that. As Mitchell moves to leave, Harrow adds, and XO, from this point forward, we operate under heightened security protocols. All communications with Pacific Command will route exclusively through you or me. Understood, Captain. Alone again, Harrow sits at his desk, feeling the weight of the new mission parameters. The classified orders have transformed a routine patrol into something far more consequential, a mission that could alter the balance of undersea warfare for years to come. The submarine service operates in silence and secrecy, but rarely with stakes this high. He activates the intercom. Officer of the deck, this is the captain. Maintain current depth and speed. I'll be in my quarters for the next 30 minutes. Commander Mitchell has the con. 30 minutes to plan their approach. 30 minutes to prepare for a dangerous dance between three nuclear powers beneath the indifferent waves of the Pacific. The hour between watches provides Captain Harrow his only true solitude. With briefings complete and the night crew settled into their rotation, he retreats to his quarters, shuts the door, and for a brief span exists not as the submarine's ultimate authority, but simply as James Harrow, a man with private thoughts. He pulls a leather-bound journal from his desk drawer, running his fingers over the embossed cover. A gift from Eleanor on their 25th anniversary, the journal contains what cannot be shared, reflections too personal for official logs, doubts unsuitable for a captain to express openly, memories that sustain him through the crushing isolation of command. Harrow uncaps his pen and begins to write. His script neat and measured even in this private domain. Day 18 of patrol. We've encountered Chinese submarine activity outside normal operational parameters. New mission directives implemented. The burden of knowledge now rests with 6 officers total. Chose not to inform the full crew of our heightened risk profile, a decision I've made before and always question afterward. He pauses, considering the implications of their new intelligence mission. The journal allows him to explore concerns that would undermine authority if voiced aloud. I wonder if Captain Lawrence felt this weight 30 years ago when he commanded the Seahawk during the Cold War cat-and-mouse games with Soviet submarines. He never spoke of doubt, only calculated risk and necessary action. As a junior officer, I believed his certainty was innate to command. Now I understand it was a performance. Perhaps the most important one a captain gives. The journal pages hold similar reflections from previous commands, the accumulated wisdom and uncertainty of a career spent in the silent service. Harrow flips back several entries, reading words written during their pre-deployment preparation. Received crew manifest today. 28 new sailors, including 7 on their first submarine deployment. Their lives now added to my responsibility. Michael asked yesterday if this might be my last patrol before shore assignment. I couldn't tell him I've declined 3 consecutive headquarters positions. The sea still calls me, though Eleanor understands less with each deployment. How do I explain that I've become more comfortable beneath the waves than on land? He returns to today's blank page, continuing his entry. Lawrence once told me that a submarine captain's most valuable trait isn't technical knowledge or tactical brilliance, but rather the capacity to project absolute certainty while navigating complete uncertainty. The crew must never see your doubt, he said, even when doubt is the only rational response. I've lived by those words through 3 commands. The pen moves steadily across the page as Harrow expresses what remains unspoken outside this private record. The Chinese acoustic masking technology, if successfully deployed, would fundamentally alter submarine warfare dynamics. American strategic dominance has relied partially on superior sonar capabilities for decades. This potential equalizer creates ripple effects extending far beyond our current mission. The intelligence we gather could influence naval strategy for years to come. Harrow pauses, considering how to articulate his deeper concern. The journal serves as both confidant and counsel, allowing him to examine thoughts that cannot be shared with even his executive officer. The mission parameters create competing imperatives, gather maximum intelligence while maintaining absolute stealth. These objectives pull in opposite directions. Drawing closer increases data quality, but exponentially raises detection risk. The classified orders provide strategic context, but tactical decisions remain mine alone. Every 1,000 yards closer to the Chinese submarine increases risk of detection, diplomatic incident, potential conflict. He considers the officers now sharing the classified intelligence burden. Rivera's experience provides stability, while Chen's intuitive understanding of acoustic signatures has proven invaluable. Walker's signals intelligence background gives her unique insight into the strategic implications. Reyes must now navigate with heightened precision, keeping them close enough for intelligence gathering while maintaining a stealth position. Command isolates, Harrow writes, more so during classified operations when knowledge barriers separate even shipmates. The 6 of us now operate with different information than the rest of the crew, creating an invisible division aboard, necessary for security but inevitably detrimental to the submarine's collective cohesion. Another burden of command, implementing protocols that subtly fragment the very unity I work to maintain. A sharp knock interrupts his writing. "Captain," comes Mitchell's voice through the door. "Sonar reports significant activity from our contact." Harrow closes the journal immediately, returning it to the drawer. "Enter," he calls, his expression already transformed from reflective to commanding. The XO appears, bearing news that will soon force theory into action. The Chinese submarine has changed course and speed. They appear to be beginning their test sequence. Harrow rises, journal and private thoughts secured away. The moment has arrived for decisions rather than reflection. Inform our briefed officers. I'll be in the control room in 2 minutes. As Mitchell departs, Harrow takes a last look at the drawer containing his journal, the repository of uncertainty now locked away, replaced by the necessary mask of command certainty. What the journal knows, the crew must never see. The captain straightens his uniform and steps toward the door, leaving James Harrow behind and becoming once more simply the captain, the role that supersedes the man. During every moment beyond this threshold, the sonar room pulses with focused energy as Captain Harrow enters. The space feels different now. No longer simply a monitoring station, but the nerve center of their newly prioritized intelligence mission. Lieutenant Rivera and Petty Officer Chen work in tandem, adjusting equipment with practiced precision, their movements reflecting the urgency of the moment. "Report," Harrow commands, moving directly to the primary display. Rivera gestures to the sonar screens where waveform patterns dance in digital representation of underwater sound. The Chinese submarine began an unusual movement pattern approximately 8 minutes ago, sir. Speed increased to 12 knots on a zigzagging course. They're starting their test sequence, Chen adds, his attention never leaving the acoustic feeds. The signature we've been monitoring shows periodic modulation consistent with experimental technology activation. Harrow studies the acoustic data while Commander Mitchell joins them, having alerted the other officers with knowledge of their classified mission. "Are you recording everything?" "Multiple redundant systems, sir," Rivera confirms. "We're capturing full-spectrum acoustic data." Chen adjusts his specialized headphones, eyes closed in concentration. "There's something different about this signature, Captain. It's pulsing in a deliberate pattern now, almost like they're calibrating the system. Spectrogram," Harrow orders. Rivera brings up the visual representation of sound frequencies across time. The colorful display showing intensity patterns that trained operators can read like text. A printout emerges from the specialized printer, physical evidence of the acoustic anomaly they're tracking. "Here," Chen points to a specific pattern on the printout. "This frequency range is showing unusual attenuation. It's as if they're selectively dampening specific harmonic signatures." Harrow examines the sonar printout carefully. 23 years of submarine experience has taught him to read these patterns instinctively. They're systematically cancelling the frequencies our passive sonar systems are optimized to detect. "Precisely," Rivera agrees. "If perfected, this technology could significantly reduce our ability to track their submarines using conventional methods." Mitchell leans closer to the display. "How effective is it?" "Currently, we can still detect them," Chen responds, "but the signature is roughly 30% less distinct than a standard Yuan-class submarine should produce. If they can improve that to 70 or 80% reduction, they'd be significantly harder to track in open ocean environments," Harrow finishes, "especially in noisy littoral waters." Lieutenant Walker enters the sonar room, her signals intelligence perspective now crucial. "Captain, we're also detecting..." increased encrypted communication between the submarine and what appears to be a surface vessel approximately 15 nautical miles east of their position. Shuttles us control ship monitoring their test, Harrow surmises. Can we intercept any of the communication? Negative, sir. Encryption is military grade, but the timing and pattern suggest data transmission regarding test parameters. Harrow studies the tactical display, mind calculating distances, angles, and risks. What's their current depth? Approximately 300 feet, Rivera reports. They've been oscillating between 200 and 400 feet during the test sequence, and our position. We're maintaining 8,000 yards separation at bearing 225, depth 500 feet, Mitchell reports. We're in their baffles currently. The baffles? The blind spot behind a submarine where its own propeller noise masks its ability to hear, provide temporary acoustic advantage. Harrow makes his decision. We need better data. Commander Mitchell, bring us to 4,000 yards, maintaining position in their baffles. Lieutenant Rivera, recalibrate the passive arrays to focus, specifically on the frequency ranges showing modulation. The sonar printout in Harrow's hands represents both evidence and opportunity, confirmation of a technological advancement that could shift the balance of undersea warfare, and the chance to gather intelligence critical to countering it. The paper feels almost warm with significance. Sir, Chen interjects, there's more. The modulation pattern has a distinctive signature that doesn't match Chinese engineering protocols I've studied. There are elements that appear non-Chinese in origin. Harrow raises an eyebrow. Meaning, the technology may incorporate elements from another source, Chen explains. Possibly Russian algorithms. The harmonic suppression technique resembles theoretical models developed by the Russian Navy's research division. Collaboration, Mitchell suggests, or technology transfer, Walker adds. The way it suggests a concerning development in Sino-Russian naval cooperation. The implications expand exponentially. Not just a Chinese technological advancement, but potential evidence of deeper military technical cooperation between America's primary naval competitors. The intelligence value of their mission has just increased dramatically. Lieutenant Walker, prepare a priority intelligence packet for transmission during our next communication window, Harrow orders. Commander Mitchell, inform Commander Reyes to plot an intercept course that keeps us in their baffles, but closes distance gradually. As the officers execute their orders, Harrow examines the sonar printout once more. The submarine service operates in a world of shadows and whispers, where advantage comes through better listening than your adversary. This paper represents the potential erosion of a critical American advantage, the ability to hear Chinese submarines before being heard themselves. Sir, Chen says suddenly, they're changing depth, rapid ascent to 100 feet. They may be preparing to communicate with their surface control vessel, Walker suggests, or they've detected something else in the area, Harrow counters. Continue monitoring all frequencies. If there's another player in this game, I want to know about it. The sonar room falls into focused silence as operators track the unfolding situation. The paper printout in Harrow's hand now serves as the first page in what may become a new chapter of underwater warfare. 1. Where the advantage of silence belongs to whoever masters this emerging technology. First, the communication center of the USS Vigilant occupies a small, secure compartment adjacent to the control room. Here, Lieutenant Walker manages the submarine's tenuous connection to the outside world through a sophisticated array of encrypted systems. The heart of this capability is the KG-250X communication encryption device, a sleek black box with minimal external features that transforms ordinary data into impenetrable code. Captain Harrow stands with Commander Mitchell, watching as Walker prepares the high-priority intelligence packet for transmission to Pacific Submarine Command. Transmission window opens in 22 minutes. Sir, Walker explains, her fingers moving efficiently across specialized keyboards. We'll have approximately 40 seconds of secure satellite connection. Compress all sonar data from the past 4 hours. Harrow instructs. Prioritize the acoustic signature anomalies and spectrogram analyses. Already done, sir, Walker confirms. I've also included preliminary analysis suggesting potential Sino-Russian technical cooperation. The encryption device hums quietly, processing the sensitive information. To breach radio silence is no small decision. Every transmission increases their detection risk exponentially. Electromagnetic energy propagates differently than acoustics underwater, creating new vulnerabilities each time they connect with the world above. Captain, Mitchell says quietly, we need to discuss the risk calculation here. Harrow nods, understanding the XO's concern. Lieutenant Walker, give us the room for a moment. Once alone, Mitchell speaks frankly. Sir, this intelligence is significant, but transmission now alerts command that we've identified the technology test. They'll almost certainly order us to continue close observation. That's our mission, Harrow responds. It is. But maintaining our current observation position keeps us well within the Chinese submarine's detection range if their standard sonar is functioning. We're gambling that they're focused on their test protocols rather than routine surveillance. Harrow considers this. Your recommendation? Delay transmission by 24 hours. Gather more comprehensive data on the technology's capabilities. Maintain greater separation distance in the interim. It's a reasonable assessment. Submariners survive through careful risk management, and Mitchell's caution has merit. Harrow recalls a similar decision point 15 years earlier aboard the USS Michigan during surveillance operations near Severomorsk. Their captain had chosen to maintain silence when discovery of a new Russian torpedo loading system seemed to warrant immediate reporting. The additional intelligence gathered during those 24 hours of patience proved invaluable to naval intelligence. There's another factor, Harrow says. If this technology represents collaboration between Chinese and Russian naval programs, the strategic implications extend beyond our current tactical situation. Command needs this information as soon as possible to adjust fleet operations accordingly. Mitchell nods. I understand that calculation, sir. I'm simply highlighting the operational risk to Vigilant. Noted and appreciated, XO. Harrow values Mitchell's willingness to voice concerns, a crucial counterbalance to the isolation of command. Let me share something with you. He describes a classified operation from 2018, when a different American submarine had detected unusual Chinese activity, but delayed reporting due to operational security concerns. By the time that intelligence reached Washington, the Chinese had already completed their test sequence and disbanded the operation. We lost a critical opportunity to fully analyze their capabilities. I wasn't aware of that incident, Mitchell acknowledges. Few are. It remains highly classified, but it informs my thinking now. The encryption device represents both security and vulnerability, protection for their sensitive communications, but a beacon to adversaries if detected. Every captain must balance mission objectives against crew safety, immediate tactical concerns against strategic intelligence value. Harrow makes his decision. We'll proceed with transmission during the upcoming window, but implement enhanced stealth protocols for the subsequent 12 hours. Reduction to ultra-quiet operations, minimal movement. Systems at lowest operational power. Very well. Sir, Mitchell agrees. They recall Lieutenant Walker, who resumes preparation for the upcoming transmission. As she works, Harrow reflects on the nature of submarine communication. Necessarily limited, compressed, and risky. Unlike surface vessels with constant connectivity, submarines operate in isolation, emerging briefly into the electromagnetic domain before submerging again into silence. Encryption complete, Captain, Walker announces. Package ready for transmission. The black box has done its work, transforming detailed acoustic analysis, technical assessments, and strategic implications into unintelligible code that only specialized systems at Pacific Command can decipher. The information within could potentially alter naval deployment patterns across the Pacific theater if confirmed and validated. Schedule confirms our transmission window in 9 minutes. Sir, Walker continues. Satellite positioning optimal. Proceed as planned, Harrow confirms. After transmission, implement communications blackout protocols until our next scheduled window. As they wait for the transmission moment, Harrow recalls his early career during the late Cold War when communication windows came just once weekly. True isolation that tested a captain's judgment and autonomy. Modern submarines maintain more frequent contact, but the fundamental calculus remains unchanged. Every connection to the outside world creates vulnerability. The minutes pass in professional silence until Walker announces, "Approaching transmission window, sir. Extending communications mast in 30 seconds. Harrow gives a final nod. Send it. The submarine briefly connects with the world above, transmitting its encrypted intelligence package in compressed bursts designed to minimize detection risk. For 40 seconds, the USS Vigilant becomes electronically visible in the vast Pacific, a calculated risk in service of their mission. Transmission complete, Walker confirms. Communications mast retracting. Well done, Harrow acknowledges. Now we wait for their response and continue our observation mission. The encryption device returns to standby mode, its temporary vulnerability past. The submarine resumes its natural state, silent, invisible and watchful beneath the waves. The submarine's engine room stands in stark contrast to the controlled calm of the command spaces. Here, amid the carefully managed chaos of massive machinery, Chief Engineer Watson oversees the nuclear heart of the USS Vigilant. The propulsion system that drives them silently through the deep Pacific is a marvel of engineering. A pressurized water reactor generating steam to drive turbines, all contained within the submarine's hull and operating with remarkable efficiency. Captain Harrow rarely visits engineering spaces during critical operations, so his appearance draws immediate attention. "Captain on deck," someone calls out. "As you were," Harrow responds automatically. "Chief Watson, you requested my presence." The chief engineer, a stocky man with 27 years of submarine service etched into his weathered face, nods gravely. He holds a specialized torque wrench, a precision tool designed specifically for the submarine's propulsion system. Its unusual configuration makes it irreplaceable at sea. "Yes, sir. We've identified a developing issue with the starboard reduction gear. Not critical yet, but trending in concerning directions." Harrow follows Watson to a monitoring station where diagnostic readouts display real-time performance metrics. The reduction gears, massive components that translate the high speed output from the turbines to the slower rotational speed needed for the propeller shaft, are crucial to both. "Propulsion and acoustic stealth, show me," Harrow requests. Watson points to specific data points. Temperature differential is increasing between these bearing assemblies. Vibration analysis shows early indicators of potential misalignment. Left unchecked, it could develop into a more significant mechanical issue within 48 to 72 hours, and eventually compromise our acoustic signature, Harrow concludes. Immediately understanding the tactical implications. "Precisely, sir. Right now, it's adding approximately 3% to our overall noise profile. Negligible and within normal parameters. But that percentage will increase exponentially if the misalignment progresses. The timing couldn't be worse. With the Chinese submarine conducting technology tests nearby and their own intelligence-gathering mission at a critical phase, any reduction in stealth capability increases their vulnerability. What's your recommendation, Chief?" Watson handles the specialized torque wrench like a surgeon with a favorite scalpel. "We need to adjust the bearing assembly tolerances. It's delicate work. We'll need to reduce propulsion power by 30% for approximately 40 minutes while we make the corrections." 40 minutes at reduced speed, Harrow calculates mentally. "That affects our positioning relative to the Chinese vessel." "Yes, sir. But postponing the correction will eventually force more drastic measures. This is preventative maintenance that preserves future options." Harrow has always respected Watson's engineering judgment. The chief represents the best of the submarine service's technical expertise, pragmatic problem solvers who understand that in the underwater environment, mechanical reliability directly correlates to survival. How quiet can you make the procedure? We've developed a modified approach, sir, Watson demonstrates with the specialized tool. By using this custom torque pattern and sequence, we can minimize acoustic signature during the adjustment process. My team has practiced the procedure twice on simulator equipment. Harrow appreciates this proactive preparation. Timeline. We're prepared to begin immediately, sir. Lieutenant Rodriguez has already programmed the automated diagnostic systems to provide real-time feedback during the procedure. Rodriguez, the assistant engineering officer, steps forward with a tablet displaying the monitoring protocol. We'll track acoustic signature changes throughout the procedure, sir. If noise levels exceed acceptable parameters, we can pause and reassess. Harrow weighs the operational implications. Their intelligence-gathering mission requires maintaining proper position relative to the Chinese submarine. Reduced speed complicates this tactical geometry. Yet engineering reliability remains paramount. A mechanical failure would compromise not just their mission, but potentially their safety. Very well, he decides. Coordinate with Commander Mitchell to adjust our patrol pattern to accommodate your reduced speed window. I want this correction completed with absolute attention to acoustic discipline. Understood, sir, Watson acknowledges. We won't let you down. As the engineering team prepares for their delicate procedure, Harrow observes the quiet competence that defines the submarine's engineering department. These officers and enlisted specialists rarely receive the recognition given to tactical or sonar teams. Yet their expertise keeps the submarine operating in one of Earth's most unforgiving environments. The specialized torque wrench in Watson's hands represents the marriage of precision engineering and human skill that submarine operations demand. Unlike surface vessels that can call for assistance or return to port for repairs, submarines must be self-sufficient in the depths. Every tool, every procedure, every contingency plan reflects this reality. Harrow addresses the engineering team briefly before departing. I know you understand the tactical situation we're managing. Your work here directly impacts our mission success. Chief Watson has my complete confidence, and you have my appreciation for your expertise. The acknowledgement is measured but sincere, the submarine captain's equivalent of high praise. As Harrow returns to the control room, he reflects on the interconnected nature of submarine operations. The engine room's mechanical reliability enables the sonar room's intelligence gathering. The navigation team's precision positioning depends on propulsion system performance. In the control room, Commander Mitchell awaits with updated tactical information. The Chinese submarine has maintained position for the past hour, continuing their test sequence. Sonar reports consistent acoustic signature modifications. Engineering needs a 40-minute window at reduced speed, Harrow informs him. We need to maintain observation while accommodating this requirement. Mitchell considers this challenge. We could adjust our depth profile while reducing speed. Use the thermocline layer to maintain acoustic advantage despite the distance change. Make it happen, Harrow orders. Coordinate with engineering to begin their maintenance window in 20 minutes. The specialized tool in the engine room will soon begin its precise work. Invisible to the Chinese submarine they track, but essential to the mission. Stealth in submarine warfare depends as much on mechanical excellence as tactical positioning, a truth Harrow has witnessed throughout his 23 years. Beneath the waves, the weapons control center aboard, the USS Vigilant exists in a state of perpetual readiness, combined with carefully managed restraint. Unlike other submarine compartments that hum with constant activity, this space operates under tightly controlled protocols. Lieutenant Commander Garcia, the weapons officer, maintains strict discipline over both the physical systems and the psychological readiness of his team. Captain Harrow enters this domain rarely, his presence immediately elevating the alertness of the weapons personnel. At his side, Commander Mitchell carries a small metal case containing what submariners call the football. Not the presidential nuclear authorization codes, but the submarine's own weapons release authentication system. "Captain on deck," Garcia announces. His team straightening to attention. "As you were," Harrow responds. "Status report, Commander." Garcia gestures to the weapons console displays. "All systems in standby configuration, sir. Torpedo tubes dry, missile system secured. We can transition to defensive posture within 7 minutes." Harrow nods, studying the readiness indicators. The weapons control station represents the submarine's ultimate purpose, not just gathering intelligence, but, if necessary, delivering precisely targeted force. This duality defines submarine service, quiet observation that can transition to lethal action when required. "Lieutenant Commander, we're adjusting our tactical stance," Harrow explains. "The Chinese submarine has made an unexpected course change toward our position. Intelligence suggests this is likely part of their test sequence rather than indication they've detected us. But prudence dictates preparedness. From the metal case, Mitchell removes a specialized key, the physical manifestation of weapons release authority. The key itself cannot activate weapons systems but forms one part of a deliberately complex authorization process requiring multiple officers and authentication codes. We're initiating weapons. Readiness condition Bravo, Harrow continues. I want 2 torpedo tubes flooded and loaded with exercise shots only. Maintain weapon systems in safety lockout status. Exercise torpedoes carry no explosive warhead, but allow tracking and maneuvering capabilities for training. Or, in this case, defensive readiness without escalatory potential. The distinction is crucial in submarine operations, where misinterpretation of intentions could trigger unintended conflict. "Understood, sir," Garcia acknowledges. Implementing Condition Bravo protocols. As the weapons team begins their precisely choreographed procedures, Harrow moves to a quieter corner with Mitchell and Lieutenant Walker, who has joined them from Signals Intelligence. "Our intelligence assessment," Harrow asks. Walker consults a secured tablet. "No indication the Chinese vessel is operating in anything but test mode, sir. Their communications maintain research parameters rather than combat protocols. However, their course adjustment brings them within 7,000 yards of our position within 30 minutes if both vessels maintain current vectors." Problematic proximity, Mitchell observes. "Indeed," Harrow agrees. "Lieutenant Commander Garcia, your tactical assessment?" Garcia approaches, his expression professional but concerned. "Sir, at that range, even with their attention focused on testing rather than detection, the probability of them registering our presence increases significantly. Their standard passive sonar would typically detect us at approximately 5,000 yards under optimal conditions. And with their experimental acoustic masking technology active, they may be compensating with heightened sensitivity in other systems," Walker adds. The weapons key catches light as Mitchell returns it to the secured case. A small object representing enormous responsibility. Submariners live with the constant awareness that their vessel carries destructive capability, requiring moral and ethical frameworks as sophisticated as the technology itself. "Sir," Garcia says carefully, "requesting clarification on rules of engagement if detected. It's a legitimate question. The weapons officer needs clear parameters for potential defensive actions." Harrow has considered this contingency extensively, balancing mission requirements against escalation risks. "Our primary objective remains intelligence gathering," Harrow states firmly. "If detected, we implement evasion protocols before defensive measures. Weapons release authorization requires positive confirmation of hostile intent, not merely awareness of our presence." This philosophy has guided Harrow throughout his command career. Unlike the aggressive posturing that characterized Cold War submarine encounters, modern doctrine emphasizes de-escalation and conflict avoidance while maintaining capability for response if truly threatened. I understand, sir, Garcia acknowledges. Defensive readiness without provocative posture. The weapons team continues their preparation, loading exercise torpedoes with deliberate care. These specialized training weapons maintain the same weight, balance, and hydrodynamic properties as live warshots, but cannot be converted to lethal capability. A crucial distinction in these sensitive circumstances, Captain. The communications officer calls from the adjacent station. Pacific Command acknowledges receipt of our intelligence transmission. They've designated our mission priority Alpha and authorized continued close observation of the Chinese test activities. Priority Alpha. The designation confirms Pacific Command's assessment that the acoustic masking technology represents a significant strategic development, requiring comprehensive intelligence analysis. Harrow exchanges glances with Mitchell. The authorization validates their risk assessment, but also increases pressure to maintain observation despite growing proximity concerns. Thank you, Lieutenant. Inform Commander Reyes to adjust our patrol vector to maintain optimal observation position while preserving maximum stealth margin. As they depart the weapons control center, Mitchell speaks quietly. They're taking this very seriously, as they should, Harrow responds. If this technology proliferates, it fundamentally alters underwater strategic balance. The weapons key returns to secure storage, its potential untapped but ready. Like the submarine itself, it represents capability carefully managed rather than eagerly deployed. Power exercised primarily through its disciplined reservation rather than its actual use. Back in the control room, Harrow watches the tactical display where two submarines, one Chinese, one American, move through the deep Pacific in a dance of approach and withdrawal, each with technology the other seeks to understand, each maintaining the fragile balance between observation and confrontation that defines modern submarine operations. The acoustic monitoring station represents the USS Vigilant's most sophisticated listening capability. Adjacent to but separate from the main sonar room, this specialized compartment houses advanced signal processing equipment designed specifically for detailed acoustic analysis rather than tactical detection. Here, Lieutenant Rivera and Petty Officer Chen work in focused silence, surrounded by displays showing waveform patterns, frequency spectrums, and harmonics analysis. Captain Harrow enters quietly, not wanting to break their concentration. The room's hushed atmosphere reflects the delicacy of their current task, capturing and analyzing the Chinese submarine's experimental acoustic signature in unprecedented detail. Progress report, Harrow requests softly. Chen looks up from his station, eyes showing the strain of hours of intensive listening. We've isolated several distinct components of their masking technology, sir. The acoustic recording we've captured reveals a layered approach to signature reduction. He gestures to a particular display showing isolated frequency bands. They're implementing what appears to be selective phase cancellation across specific frequency ranges, precisely those most commonly monitored by American sonar systems. Rivera adds, "It's sophisticated work, Captain. Not just broadband noise reduction, but targeted acoustic manipulation that preserves some signatures while masking others." Harrow studies the visual representation of sound, colored patterns that translate the submarine's invisible world of underwater acoustics into comprehensible data. The recording they've captured represents invaluable intelligence, evidence of a technological leap that could significantly impact naval warfare dynamics. Your assessment of effectiveness? Harrow asks. Chen adjusts settings on his console, bringing up comparison waveforms. Against standard passive sonar arrays, I estimate 60–65% signature reduction. That's significant enough to greatly increase detection difficulty in noisy environments like coastal waters or shipping lanes. However, Rivera interjects, his experience tempering Chen's assessment. There are anomalies in the implementation, inconsistencies that suggest the system isn't fully stabilized. Listen to this segment. He plays an isolated section of the recording. To an untrained ear, it would sound like random ocean noise. But Harrow's experienced hearing catches the subtle irregularity. A brief acoustic shadow where the masking technology momentarily reveals itself through its very effectiveness. They're still refining the system. Harrow observes, "Yes, sir," Chen confirms. "We believe we're witnessing developmental testing rather than a fully operational capability. The technology shows promise, but remains inconsistent in extended deployment." Lieutenant Walker enters with a tablet displaying signals intelligence analysis. "Captain, we've intercepted additional encrypted transmissions between the Chinese submarine and their surface control vessel. Pattern analysis suggests they're experiencing technical difficulties. This new information aligns with the acoustic evidence." Harrow considers the tactical implications, mind-calculating possibilities and responses. "What kind of difficulties?" "Based on transmission timing and duration patterns, likely system instability or power management issues," Walker explains. "The communications show characteristics consistent with troubleshooting procedures rather than routine reporting." Rivera adjusts the acoustic playback, isolating another segment. "There, did you hear that?" A faint mechanical oscillation becomes audible, barely perceptible even to trained ears. "That's not part of their masking technology," Chen says with growing excitement. "That's a coolant system operating under strain. Their power plant is struggling with the energy requirements of the acoustic masking system. The revelation transforms their understanding. The Chinese technology, while impressive in concept, appears to demand significant power resources that their submarine systems struggle to provide consistently." "Sir," Rivera says with uncharacteristic urgency, "there's more." The latest acoustic signature shows significant changes in their propulsion noise. "I think they're experiencing mechanical difficulties beyond just the masking system." Harrow listens to the new recording segment. The subtle change would be meaningless to most, but to experienced submariners, it tells a concerning story. A submarine with potentially compromised propulsion reliability. Their port propeller shaft bearing is showing early-stage failure harmonics, Chen confirms, displaying the isolated frequency analysis. The acoustic pattern matches known signatures for that specific mechanical issue. The tactical situation has suddenly transformed. What began as an intelligence-gathering mission on new technology now, potentially, involves a foreign submarine experiencing mechanical difficulties in international waters, a scenario with both operational and humanitarian dimensions. If that bearing fails completely, they'll lose propulsion symmetry, Harrow states. "Mind already calculating potential scenarios. Depth control becomes problematic in that situation. Worst case, they could experience cascading system failures if the initial problem isn't addressed," Rivera adds. The veteran sonar officer, understanding the serious implications, Walker checks her intelligence feeds. Their communications with the surface control vessel have increased in frequency and duration, Captain. Pattern suggests escalating concern. The acoustic recording has become more than intelligence. It's evidence of a potential safety situation developing underwater. Submarine operations exist in a unique domain where national rivalries can be temporarily superseded by the shared respect for the ocean's dangers. The unwritten code of the deep acknowledges that all submariners face the same implacable physics, regardless of flag. "Continue monitoring with maximum sensitivity," Harrow orders. "I want real-time updates on any further degradation in their propulsion signature." As he leaves the acoustic monitoring station, Harrow finds Commander Mitchell waiting outside. "You heard?" Harrow asks. "Enough," Mitchell confirms. "If they're experiencing genuine mechanical casualties, then we have decisions to make," Harrow finishes. Decisions that balance operational security, intelligence value, and the practical realities of submarine safety. The acoustic recording continues capturing data, evidence of both technological advancement and potential vulnerability, information that will inform whatever difficult choices lie ahead. The wardroom has transformed from a dining space to a crisis management center. Around the table sit the officers privy to the classified mission parameters. Expressions serious as Captain Harrow lays out the situation. The Chinese submarine is experiencing progressive mechanical failure, he explains. Their propulsion system shows increasing instability, and their communications with their surface support vessel have taken on emergency protocols. Lieutenant Commander Garcia, the weapons officer, asks the question on everyone's mind. Are we obligated to render assistance, sir? It's a complex question that touches on naval tradition, international law, military protocols, and human ethics. Harrow opens the International Maritime Signal Book, a manual containing standardized communication codes recognized by vessels of all nations. Though rarely used in submarine operations, its protocols remain relevant in certain scenarios. The International Convention for Safety of Life at Sea technically applies even to military vessels, Harrow acknowledges. But submarine operations exist in a grey area, particularly regarding classified capabilities and positions. Commander Mitchell adds, our operational orders prioritize intelligence gathering on their acoustic masking technology. Revealing our position by offering assistance would compromise that mission and potentially expose our own capabilities. Lieutenant Walker notes, the tension in the room reflects the competing imperatives at play. Naval tradition has always held that mariners assist vessels in distress, regardless of nationality. Yet submarine warfare operates under different rules, silent, secretive, with national security implications that sometimes override conventional maritime protocols. What's their status now? Harrow asks. Chen consults his tablet showing the latest acoustic analysis. Progressive deterioration of their port propeller shaft assembly. They've reduced speed to approximately 3 knots and appear to be attempting repairs. Based on the acoustic signature, they're experiencing increasing vibration that could potentially compromise hull integrity if it worsens. Are they in immediate danger? Harrow presses. Not yet, Chen replies. But their options are limited. They're likely unable to surface due to the classified nature of their test systems. Harrow studies the signal book thoughtfully. Inside are internationally recognized codes that transcend language barriers. Standardized signals that would allow limited communication without revealing sensitive capabilities. Lieutenant Walker, any change in their surface support vessel's behavior? Harrow asks. They've altered course toward the submarine's approximate position, sir. Current speed 15 knots. Estimated arrival in their vicinity approximately 3 hours, assuming they have accurate positioning data. This information shapes Harrow's thinking. The Chinese sailors aren't without potential assistance, though that support remains distant. Here's what we know, Harrow summarizes. They're conducting classified technology testing. They've developed mechanical difficulties that aren't immediately life-threatening, but could become so. They have surface support en route, and they likely remain unaware of our presence. He turns to Rivera. Your assessment, if their mechanical situation worsens, what's their most probable course of action? The experienced sonar officer considers this carefully. They'd likely attempt emergency surfacing while continuing damage control efforts. Given their location in international waters, they could request assistance from their surface vessel without compromising major classified elements. Unless the emergency prevents surfacing, Chen counters. A catastrophic propeller shaft failure could potentially damage their ballast systems or cause flooding that complicates depth control. The signal book between them represents both opportunity and risk, the means to communicate across national boundaries balanced against mission imperatives and security protocols. Harrow weighs the complex ethical and operational factors, conscious that 134 American lives depend on his decisions, while an unknown number of Chinese submariners face potential danger. We have several options, Harrow states. Maintain observation without intervention. Attempt anonymous acoustic communication using basic international protocols. Or surface and offer direct assistance, compromising our position and mission, but potentially saving lives if their situation deteriorates catastrophically. Mitchell offers his perspective. So we could split the difference. Prepare a carefully limited communication using the most basic underwater telephone protocols. Transmit only if their situation reaches critical status. Maintain maximum operational security while acknowledging the humanitarian dimension. It's a measured approach that balances competing priorities. Harrow considers it carefully. Lieutenant Walker, draft a minimal communication using international distress response signals. Basic acknowledgement of their presence and offer of emergency assistance if required. No identifying information, no specifics that reveal our capabilities. Walker nods. Taking the signal book for reference, Commander Mitchell, prepare the ship for potential shift to communication posture. Lieutenant Rivera, establish continuous acoustic monitoring of their mechanical signature. I want immediate notification of any significant deterioration. As the officers disperse to their assignments, Harrow remains momentarily alone with the signal book. Its worn pages represent generations of maritime tradition, the understanding that despite political differences and military competition, certain principles of human conduct transcend national boundaries. The decision balances precariously between conflicting responsibilities. Intelligence gathering remains their primary mission, crucial to national security and strategic planning. Yet the potential human cost of non-intervention weighs equally in the calculation. In the control room, Harrow finds the atmosphere tense but focused as the crew monitors the Chinese submarine's increasingly erratic acoustic signature. "Sir," Chen reports looking up from his station, "they're attempting emergency repairs. The acoustic signature shows they've reduced power to minimum steerage and are likely working on their propulsion system. Underwater telephone on standby, Captain," communications reports. Prepared for limited transmission if authorized, Harrow studies the tactical display, where two submarines, American and Chinese, exist in invisible proximity beneath the waves. Adversaries by nationality, but linked by their common challenge against the ocean's unforgiving physics. "Maintain present course and depth," he orders. "Continue monitoring. Will intervene only if their situation becomes life-threatening." The submarine service teaches that patience often provides solutions unavailable to hasty action. For now, they will watch, listen, and prepare, ready to set aside national rivalries if human necessity demands, but equally committed to the mission entrusted to them by their nation. The night watch aboard a submarine carries a different quality than daytime operations. Despite the artificial lighting and controlled environment, something in the human psyche responds to the natural cycle. Voices lower, movements become more deliberate, and a contemplative atmosphere settles across the vessel. Captain Harrow stands in the control room, observing as Lieutenant Rodriguez conducts the evening status checks. The crisis with the Chinese submarine has resolved itself without American intervention. Their mechanical issues stabilized enough for them to limp toward rendezvous with their surface support vessel, unaware of the American submarine that had watched their struggle, prepared to help but ultimately unneeded. "All stations report normal operations, Captain," Rodriguez confirms. "We've resumed standard patrol pattern at 500 feet. Very good, Lieutenant. Maintain course and speed. The submarine has returned to its primary mission, gathering intelligence and maintaining American presence in contested waters. Yet the day's events have added new dimensions to their understanding of both the Chinese technology and the broader strategic situation." "XO," Harrow addresses Mitchell, who stands nearby reviewing reports. "Walk with me." In the narrow corridor outside, the two senior officers speak quietly. "Pacific Command has acknowledged our latest intelligence transmission," Mitchell reports. "They're particularly interested in the correlation between the Chinese acoustic masking technology and their mechanical difficulties." "As they should be," Harrow responds. That connection may represent the technology's critical vulnerability, power demands that exceed current submarine plant capabilities. Their conversation continues as they make their way through the submarine, passing crew members who acknowledge them with respectful nods. The day's tension has dissipated, replaced by the routine efficiency that defines submarine operations. The technology shows promise but remains developmental, Mitchell observes. Naval intelligence estimates they're 2 to 3 years from operational deployment, which gives our own systems development time to adapt countermeasures. Harrow adds, they reach the captain's quarters, where Harrow retrieves his personal star chart, a paper celestial map he's carried through multiple deployments. Though useless hundreds of feet underwater, it connects him to the world above. The stars that still guide maritime navigation as they have for centuries. It's after midnight, Harrow notes, glancing at his watch. A new day officially. The submarine continues its silent passage through the deep, its crew executing their duties with practiced precision. In the sonar room, operators monitor the ocean's complex acoustic environment. In engineering, watchstanders maintain the nuclear propulsion plant that powers their vessel. Throughout the submarine, sailors stand their posts. Their individual efforts creating the collective capability that keeps them safe beneath millions of gallons of crushing seawater. Harrow studies his star chart briefly. In ancient navigation, sailors believed that understanding the stars provided not just direction, but perspective. Perspective we sometimes lack underwater, Mitchell acknowledges. Perhaps. But we gain different insights here in the deep. Harrow carefully returns the chart to its storage tube. Today, we observed an adversary's technological advancement, but also their vulnerability. We witnessed their struggle against the same unforgiving physics that constrain us all beneath the waves. They make their way back to the control room, where the tactical display shows normal operations resumed. There, submarine maintaining its patrol pattern while the Chinese vessel and its surface support ship grow increasingly distant. I've drafted the formal intelligence assessment for transmission during tomorrow's communication window, Mitchell reports. Comprehensive analysis of their acoustic technology, observed capabilities, limitations, and strategic implications. Good. Include Chief Watson's engineering assessment of their mechanical difficulties. Understanding the technology's power demands may be as valuable as analyzing its acoustic properties. The submarine's regular rhythm has been restored after the day's unusual events. Watch changes, maintenance schedules, and patrol patterns continue with methodical consistency, the disciplined routine that submariners rely upon during months beneath the surface. I have the con, Harrow informs Rodriguez. Formally resuming command, Captain has the con, Rodriguez acknowledges. Updating the log, Harrow moves to the center of the control room, surveying the stations around him. Dunar continues passive monitoring, detecting no vessels within immediate range. Navigation maintains their patrol course through international waters. Communications monitors scheduled frequencies while maintaining emission control protocols. Status report, Harrow requests. All systems normal, sir, the officer of the deck responds. Depth 500 feet, speed 15 knots, course 045. Estimated position consistent with patrol parameters. Harrow nods, satisfied. He checks his watch. Midnight plus 30 minutes. One day of their deployment complete, many more ahead before they return to the surface world, to sunlight and unlimited horizons and families waiting on distant shores. In the quiet control room of the USS Vigilant, Captain James Harrow continues his vigilance, as generations of submarine commanders have before him. The technology has evolved from diesel-electric to nuclear propulsion, from primitive sonar to sophisticated acoustic analysis systems, yet the fundamental nature of submarine command remains unchanged. The methodical, patient discipline of those who guide their vessels and crews through the silent deep. Outside the submarine's hull, the vast Pacific continues its eternal rhythms. indifferent to the human dramas played out in its depths. The ocean neither knows nor cares about national boundaries, technological rivalries, or strategic calculations. It simply exists, powerful, primal, and ultimately unconquerable. A constant reminder to those who sail beneath its surface of the thin margin between mastery and disaster. The submarine continues its patrol, invisible from above, one of the unseen guardians moving silently through the depths, maintaining the delicate balance of power that helps keep the peace in a complex world.